Curious George kills an unarmed boy. This is George. He is a self-proclaimed neighborhood watch captain, and he was always very curious. He called 911 whenever his curiosity was piqued. He called one time about a pothole on his street. It seems calling 911 is how George's time was often spent. He even called one time because the landlord wanted the rent. He called about two men, one in shorts and the other in jeans. Those suspicious black subjects were in their teens. But it's nothing against black teens, for you see, one time he called about a slightly younger suspicious black subject between 7 and 9. Yet another time he called about a suspicious black subject in a white tee and black shorts, which is weird, because only hoodies raise suspicion, of course. One night as George drove, he spotted a suspicious black subject. This one was wearing a hoodie, and he was walking through George's hood, clearly up to no good. But George was on the case. Oh, goody. He called 911 one last time. This was a real suspicious guy. It was time to drop dime. George was told that the police were on the way, which was good because George could tell the suspicious black subject was on drugs or something that day. The dispatcher asked, "Are you following him?" "Yeah," George replied. "Okay, we don't need you to do that," but Curious George was driven by something inside. Clearly not racism. How could it be? As his defenders would explain later, there are black people on his family tree. Whatever drove him, he got out of his car. The suspicious black subject was running, but he wouldn't get far. Not with Curious George on the case, not with Curious George to show him his place. We may debate whether what happened that night was all about race, but there's no debate that what happened was quite a disgrace. The suspicious black subject, his name was Trayvon, was shot by Curious George, and then he was gone. His blood spilled, stained the sidewalk, and also the soul of a nation. Some saw echoes of carnage that began on plantations. But when the men with the yellow badges arrived, they took the word of the man who survived. You say self-defense? That's good enough for us. Then those pesky liberals started making a fuss. "Justice for Trayvon," the masses cried. But if justice meant arresting George, then justice would be denied. Police Chief Bill Lee saw George's logic as sound. After all, in Florida, you can stand your ground. And besides, there's another reason George should not be arrested. It was Trayvon who attacked George, others protested. So says an anonymous witness whose account should not be contested. But upon closer inspection, that was cause for reflection. You see, what the report said was that the witness saw Trayvon on top in the struggle, winning the fight. There was nothing about who started it, right? So even if the account was true and the witness could be believed, anyone who was told there was proof Trayvon started the fight had clearly been deceived. One had Skittles, the other a 9. But no doubt George's defenders are right. It makes sense that the one with the candy started the fight. It makes sense not to arrest George. America has made it clear all along that killing suspicious black subjects has never been wrong. What's wrong with liberals? Why play the race card with haste? America still loves strange fruit, no matter how bitter the taste, for those who were enslaved and simply left out. I mean, the president's black. What's the whining all about? Besides, Americans were singing a familiar song. Racism! Reverse racism! And then they move on. The headlines will fade as the media moves on. And even a heartbroken mother and father will have to find the strength to move on. Until the next remix of this old familiar song, everyone will move on, except for Trayvon. Trayvon is gone. The end.